This story begins with a man who should not exist. No name, no wallet, no labels in his clothes. Just a well-dressed stranger found dead on a quiet Australian beach. And in a secret pocket sewn into his trousers, investigators would later find a single, tiny scrap of paper. 2 words, printed in an elegant font. Tamám Shud. It is finished. The man's identity, unknown. His cause of death, unknown. Even his reason for being on that beach, unknown. For more than 70 years, this case has refused to give up its secrets. Police, coroners, code breakers, spies, journalists, and modern DNA scientists have all taken a shot at it. They've come close. But the truth has always stayed one step out of reach. This is the story of the Somerton Man, and of the mystery that begins where his life ends. Our story takes place in South Australia in 1948. The Second World War has ended, but the world is not at peace. The Cold War is beginning. Governments are nervous. Intelligence agencies are growing. In Adelaide, the capital of South Australia, life feels relatively quiet. It's a small city with trams, stone buildings, and a relaxed seaside suburb called Somerton. Somerton Beach is the kind of place families go for a walk in the evening. Kids play in the sand. Couples stroll along the seawall that separates the sand from the grass. On the night of November 30th, 1948, one of those couples is John Lyons and his wife. John is a jeweler. He's used to noticing small details. As they walk along the beach, John sees a man sitting, or maybe lying, against the low seawall. The man is dressed in a suit. His legs are stretched out. His feet are crossed neatly at the ankles. John watches him for a moment. The man raises his right arm, then lets it fall back down. It looks like the lazy movement of someone who's drunk or very tired. Nearby, mosquitoes buzz around his face. He doesn't brush them away. John thinks, he's had too much to drink. He keeps walking. A little later that evening, another couple passes the same spot. They see the same man, still in the same position. From where they stand, he looks asleep or unconscious. One of them jokes that he's dead to the world. In a way, they're right, but nobody knows it yet. The man remains there through the night. The sea rolls in and out. The city sleeps. Early the next morning, December 1st, the sun rises over Adelaide. John Lyons comes back to the beach to go for a swim. As he approaches the seawall, he notices a small group of people gathered around something. He walks closer. It's the man, still in the same position as the night before. Head resting on the seawall, legs out, feet crossed. But now he's cold. His skin has changed color, and there's a half-smoked cigarette resting on his collar, as if it slipped from his mouth and landed there. John realizes the man is dead. The police are called. Within hours, the unknown man from Somerton Beach is lying on a table at the Royal Adelaide Hospital. The doctors examine him. He is clean-shaven, around middle age, well-built, with strong calf muscles. He's wearing a good quality suit, a shirt, a tie, polished shoes. For a man found dead on a beach, he looks surprisingly respectable. But when they start checking his pockets, something strange becomes very clear. There's no wallet, no ID, no driver's license, no military papers, no written name at all. Instead, they find small, everyday items: a packet of chewing gum, 2 combs, a box of matches, a pack of cigarettes from one brand inside a box from another brand, and a couple of transport tickets from the city. one for a train journey, one for a bus trip toward the seaside. The tickets tell investigators that whoever this man is, he didn't just randomly appear on the beach. He took the train. He took a bus. He traveled with intention. But the tickets don't say who he is. The doctors look for signs of violence, bruises, broken bones, cuts, gunshot wounds. They find nothing. He looks like a man who simply decided to sit down and die. But when they open him up, things get complicated. The autopsy reveals unusual details inside his body. His spleen is enlarged. His liver is swollen and congested. There is blood in his stomach. His pupils are smaller than normal. There is a faint trail of saliva that had run down from his mouth, as if he lost control of swallowing. The pathologist can't find any obvious natural disease that explains all of this. A poisoning expert is brought in. He says the symptoms are consistent with certain rare poisons, poisons that attack the heart, poisons that can kill without leaving a clear chemical trace. He mentions digitalis and other obscure substances, things that, at the time, would have been almost impossible to detect in the lab after death. But there's a problem. The tests they can run in 1948 don't find any poison. No cyanide, no barbiturates, nothing obvious. So the official cause of death becomes a question mark. Strong suspicion of poison, but no proof. The police now have a dead man with no name and no clear cause of death. They take fingerprints and send them around Australia and overseas. They photograph his face and publish the picture in newspapers. They invite families of missing persons to come and look. Hundreds of people view the body. Some think they recognize him. All are eventually ruled out. No one can say, yes, that's my husband. No, that's my brother. No, that's my father. In the official records, he becomes simply the Somerton Man. Then, a new lead appears. At Adelaide Railway Station, staff remember a suitcase that has been sitting in the cloakroom, unclaimed. It was checked in on November 30th, the day before the body was found. Police open the suitcase. Inside, they find clothes. The kind of clothes a man traveling alone might carry. Shirts, underwear, trousers, a coat with a distinctive style that looks slightly foreign. They also find tools, a stencil kit, the kind used by someone working with cargo or shipping, a knife that has been cut down. And they notice something strange about the clothes. Almost every label has been removed. Brand names, laundry marks, anything that might trace back to a shop, a cleaner, or a person. Just a few scraps of labeling survive. On 3 items, variations of a name appear. Keane. Keane. T. Keane. Investigators follow that trail. They check missing persons named Keane. They contact laundries. They try to find anyone who might have owned these clothes. It goes nowhere. They begin to suspect the name was a decoy, a label that belonged to somebody else, or simply wasn't removed by mistake when all the others were. One detail stands out. The suitcase contains a reel of orange thread, the same kind of thread used to repair the man's trousers. It suggests the suitcase and the body belong to the same person. But still, no name. Months go by. Police gather everything they have. The body, the photographs, the fingerprints, the autopsy notes, the suitcase. It isn't enough. Then, a professor named John Clayland takes a second, very careful look at the body and the man's clothes. He notices something no one has seen before. Inside the waistband of the trousers, there is a tiny secret pocket, a fob pocket, sewn into the lining, almost invisible. He opens it. Inside, he finds a small, tightly rolled piece of paper, about the size of a ticket stub. He unrolls it. On the paper, printed in neat type, are 2 words: Tamám Shud. It's not English, but a newspaper reporter recognizes it. The words appear on the last page of a book of poetry called the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. In that book, Tamám Shud means finished, the end. Police realize this could be important. A man dies mysteriously with a secret pocket in his pants containing a tiny scrap that says it is finished. It sounds like a farewell or a symbol. They begin searching for the book it came from. Months later, another man walks into the police station with a copy of the Rubaiyat. He prefers to use a pseudonym in public, so records refer to him as Ronald Francis. He says his brother-in-law found the book left on the back seat of his car, parked near Somerton Beach, around the time of the death. Police examine the book. The final page has a torn area. They compare its shape to the scrap found in the hidden pocket. It matches. This is the book the scrap came from. They now know the Somerton Man was carrying the end of this book in his secret pocket. Months go by. Police gather everything they have: the body, the photographs, the fingerprints, the autopsy notes, the suitcase. It isn't enough. Then, a professor named John Clayland takes a second, very careful look at the body and the man's clothes. He notices something no one has seen before. Inside the waistband of the trousers, there is a tiny secret pocket, a fob pocket, sewn into the lining, almost invisible. He opens it. Inside, he finds a small, tightly rolled piece of paper, about the size of a ticket stub. He unrolls it. On the paper, printed in neat type, are 2 words: Tamám Shud. It's not English, but a newspaper reporter recognizes it. The words appear on the last page of a book of poetry called the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. In that book, Tamám Shud means finished, the end. Police realize this could be important. A man dies mysteriously with a secret pocket in his pants containing a tiny scrap that says it is finished. It sounds like a farewell or a symbol. They begin searching for the book it came from. Months later, another man walks into the police station with a copy of the Rubaiyat. He prefers to use a pseudonym in public, so records refer to him as Ronald Francis. He says his brother-in-law found the book left on the back seat of his car, parked near Somerton Beach, around the time of the death. Police examine the book. The final page has a torn area. They compare its shape to the scrap found in the hidden pocket. It matches. This is the book the scrap came from. They now know the Somerton Man was carrying the end of this book in his secret pocket. But the book has more to give. On the back cover, faint pencil marks catch their eye. Under strong light, a telephone number appears. There are also lines of capital letters, arranged like a code. No words, just groups of letters. 5 lines, 1 line crossed out. The phone number leads to a woman living not far from Somerton Beach. She is a nurse. Her name, later revealed in public accounts, is Jessica Thompson. When police contact her, she tells them she once gave a copy of the Rubaiyat to a man she met during the war. His name was Alfred Boxall. For a moment, investigators think they may have solved the case. If Boxall is dead, maybe he's the man on the beach. But when they track him down, Boxall is very much alive. He's working at a bus depot in New South Wales. He still has his copy of the Rubaiyat, complete with Jessica's inscription inside. The Somerton Man is not Alfred Boxall. Police ask Jessica if she recognizes the plaster cast taken of the dead man's face. They watch her reaction closely. She looks at it. She turns pale. She appears deeply shaken. According to people present, she seemed like someone who knew exactly who the man was. But when they ask her directly, she says she doesn't know him. She denies any connection. She is never charged with anything. Officially, she remains just a witness. Back at the police station, the strange letters on the back of the Rubaiyat bother everyone. They send the code to naval intelligence. Code breakers examine it. They say it does not match any known military code. They suggest it might be the first letters of words, maybe a poem, maybe a private message. But there are too few letters to be sure. The sequence is too short, too personal. In other words, it might be a code. But if it is, it's one meant only for the person who wrote it. The authorities cannot read it. Years pass. The case moves from active investigation to cold mystery. The coroner's official finding is brutally simple. He cannot say who the man was. He cannot say how he died. He cannot say what the cause of death was. The Somerton Man is buried in Adelaide. His grave sometimes receives flowers from unknown visitors. No one knows who leaves them. Researchers and writers pick up the story. Some are fascinated by the spy angle. The timing seems perfect. Late 1940s, atomic tests, rocket ranges in the Australian desert, British and Australian intelligence services working together. An unknown man appears on a beach. No ID, possible poison. A code. A mysterious woman's phone number. It feels like the opening scene of a spy thriller. But here's the reality. There's no document in any official record that ties this man to espionage. No agency file. No secret report that has surfaced saying he was a spy. The spy theory is driven by the atmosphere of the time and by circumstantial details. It is speculation. Another thread pulls people toward a more personal story. Jessica Thompson, the nurse, becomes central in many researchers' minds. Her reaction to the death mask. Her address so close to where the body was found. Her habit of giving copies of the Rubaiyat to men she knew. Some begin to suspect that the Somerton Man was someone she knew well. Perhaps a former lover, perhaps connected to her family. But Jessica never publicly confirmed any such connection. She held her silence for the rest of her life. That silence becomes part of the mystery. Meanwhile, the physical details continue to intrigue. The Somerton Man's calves were unusually developed. His feet had a wedge shape, like someone who spent years in tight, pointed shoes. One witness suggested he might have been a dancer, possibly a ballet dancer. It's an interesting observation, but again, it remains just that. An observation, not proof. All these fragments begin to build a picture that feels complete. A secretive man, trained body, possible poison, a coded message, a mysterious woman. But when you strip away what people want to be true and look only at what is verified, the picture becomes much thinner. What is solid is this. A middle-aged man, well-dressed, died on Somerton Beach sometime during the night of November 30th, 1948, or the early morning of December 1st. He had taken a train and a bus to get there. He carried no identification. He had a hidden pocket containing a scrap of paper that said Tamám Shud. He likely died from some form of poisoning, judging by his internal organs and the expert testimony. But the exact substance used was never found, and nobody could say, officially, who he was. For decades, that was the end of the story. Then, in the early 2000s, a new wave of interest began. A professor at the University of Adelaide, Derek Abbott, became fascinated by the case. He studied the original files. He interviewed witnesses and families. He built detailed timelines. Most importantly, he started looking at the one thing that hadn't been fully exploited in the 1940s: DNA. When the plaster cast of the Somerton Man's face was made in 1949, a few strands of his hair were trapped in the material. Those hairs remained preserved. Modern forensic teams were eventually able to extract DNA from them. It wasn't easy. The hair was old. There was no root. But with advanced technology, a genetic profile was produced. Abbott worked with American forensic genealogist Colleen Fitzpatrick. They compared the Somerton Man's DNA to samples in public genealogy databases. They built a huge family tree containing thousands of possible relatives. Slowly, one name began to stand out: Carl, or Charles, Webb. Webb was an electrical engineer and instrument maker from Melbourne, born in 1905. He had separated from his wife in the late 1940s. Around the time the Somerton Man died, there was no clear record of Webb's death in official documents. The more the team checked, the more the DNA lines pointed toward him. They found relatives whose genetic markers matched simultaneously on his father's side and his mother's side. The family tree kept converging back to Webb. An additional detail added weight. Webb had a brother-in-law named Thomas Keane. Keane lived fairly close to Webb in Victoria. If Webb had access to Keane's clothes, that might explain the Keane and T. Keane labels that remained on some of the Somerton Man's belongings. It's a compelling picture. A man under personal stress in Melbourne, traveling away from his old life, ending up on a beach in Adelaide, carrying fragments of a book about fate and death. But even this modern breakthrough has limits. The DNA work strongly suggests that the Somerton Man was Carl Webb. However, as of today, the police and coroner in South Australia have not yet formally declared that the identity is officially confirmed. The remains of the Somerton Man were exhumed in 2021 to collect better DNA samples. The results of that full comparison have not yet been publicly delivered as a final, legal conclusion. So when we talk about Carl Webb, we have to be careful. He is, according to the genetic genealogy, the best current candidate. But in strict official terms, the Somerton Man remains unidentified. Even if we accept Webb as the man on the beach, the biggest questions remain. If he was Webb, why did he come to Adelaide? Why Somerton Beach? Was it suicide? Was someone else involved? The scrap in the pocket still says Tamám Shud. It is finished. But what exactly was finished? His marriage? His hope? His life? The code in the Rubaiyat still has not been convincingly cracked, in a way authorities accept as definitive. Was it a random series of letters? A private way of remembering something? An unfinished message? We don't know. The spy theory still floats around, especially online. People point to the undetectable poison, the missing labels, the code, and they see the outline of espionage. But there is still no hard evidence that links the Somerton Man to any government or spy agency. That part of the story remains in the realm of speculation. The idea that Jessica Thompson knew him intimately is another powerful thread. Her reaction to the death mask, her decision to say she did not know him, her connection to the Rubaiyat. Some researchers are convinced she carried a secret to her grave. Others caution that we simply don't have enough facts to draw that conclusion. Over time, even interesting coincidences have been ruled out by DNA. Earlier, some believed that Jessica's son might be biologically related to the Somerton Man. Genetic testing has since shown that this is not the case. Again and again, the case teases us with hints, then pulls back. Today, what we can say with confidence is this: a man, probably around 40 to 50 years old, died on Somerton Beach in South Australia in late 1948. He wore a suit and polished shoes. He carried no identification. He likely traveled by train and bus to reach the suburb. He had a hidden pocket containing a piece of paper with the words Tamám Shud, torn from a copy of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. The matching book was found nearby, with a phone number and a strange sequence of letters on the back cover. That phone number led to a nurse living nearby, who denied knowing the dead man, but reacted strongly when shown his face. Medical experts believed he probably died from an uncommon form of poisoning, but no poison was ever detected. Attempts to decode the letter sequence have failed to produce any solution that authorities accept as proven. Modern DNA research strongly points to a man named Carl Charles Webb as the likely identity, but this has not yet been formally certified by the coroner. Everything beyond these points, spy stories, love triangles, secret children, elaborate coded plots, belongs to the world of theories. Some may be close to the truth. Some may be completely wrong. We don't know. And so we are left with a mystery that feels oddly personal. It is not about a mass conspiracy or a huge political scandal. It is about one man. Someone who lived, worked, loved, and worried. Someone who, for reasons we still don't fully understand, ended his life, or lost his life, on a quiet stretch of sand in Adelaide. Someone who seemed to go out of his way to leave as little trace as possible. No name, no papers, labels removed. But then, in a hidden pocket, he left a single message. Tamám Shud. It is finished. We have spent more than 7 decades trying to answer him back, to say, no, it's not finished. We can still tell your story. And yet, after all the investigations, all the interviews, all the autopsies, all the code breaking, all the advanced DNA work, the Somerton Man still keeps the most important part to himself: who he truly was inside, what he felt on that last night, why he chose that place. Some mysteries are unsolved because no one cares enough to look. This one is different. This one has been picked apart in incredible detail, and it still refuses to fully open. Maybe one day, the coroner will sign a paper and officially name him. Maybe we'll be able to write Carl Webb on his grave and close at least one chapter. But even then, there will be questions we cannot reach. We will still be standing on that beach, staring at a man in a suit, wondering what was going through his mind as the waves shifted in the dark. Until then, the case of the Somerton Man remains what it has always been. A story that ends with the words, "It is finished," and yet, somehow, never truly ends.